Today, we're going to talk to one of the biggest stars in Hallmark today. He's a writer, he's an actor, and he's the star of this week's Cases of Mystery Lane Death is Listening. Get ready for Paul Campbell. This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel. All right, here on Hallmark Mysteries and More, this is a very, very exciting day. We have the one, the only, Paul Campbell. How you doing, Paul?
Hi. Am I the one and only? Have we fact checked that?
I have. I went through Google and there is no other Paul Campbell in existence.
Wow.
So you're the one and the only.
I think Google's
Very,
broken,
very
but
unique
I
name.
like it.
It's a very unique name.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thanks, Eric.
All right. All right. So we're going to get started and have just a few fun little icebreaker type questions. But these are really going to be, diving into your psyche to really find out who this one and only Paul Campbell really is.
Real softballs coming at me. Okay.
No, only we ask only the hardest of questions here.
Oh,
So
shoot.
the first one is, now, I assume you've been recognized out in public. You have any good story about whether it's funny, memorable, maybe scary or anything like that about
It's
being out there?
always funny. It's funny to me. It doesn't happen nearly as much in Canada as it does in the US, which is just not as big a market for Hallmark in Canada. It does happen occasionally. More often than not, I'll just be at dinner or something, and I'll see another table, kind of look over, and then they both pull out their phones, and they're like madly Googling, and then they're looking over, they're like, yeah. But there was a really fun moment a couple years ago at one of the after Christmas Con in New Jersey, and there was a bunch of actors, myself and Andrew and Tyler and Nikki Deloche and Kimberley Sustad, and there was a couple other like of the Hallmark regulars that had gone to visit. We went to visit the Hallmark office in New York, and I had never been to Times Square, and a couple of us had like I'd never seen the Christmas tree in Times Square, and so we walked with some of the people from the office. We all walked through Manhattan. I think it's on 41st. So we all walked down to Times Square with the beautiful Christmas tree, and we're all like, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. We're freaking out. I'm like, we have to get a photo. And so we all kind of line up with our backs to the Christmas tree. Didn't even occur to me that this was also kind of like the perfect advertisement for Hallmark Channel
Yeah.
Christmas. And then just a couple of ladies kind of turned around, and there was just like the six of us standing there, and they were like, what? And then everybody started to turn around, and all of these women, there was a huge group of women, were like, it's all the Hallmark star. And they all started kind of freaking out and pulling out cameras. It was really funny. And I was just such a tourist. And I was like, oh yeah, people associate us so much with Christmas. It must have been really strange to see us standing in front of this gorgeous tree, this whole group of us. We're much more recognizable as a group. Like if I walk around with Tyler Hines, inevitably we get stopped every 30 feet. But when I'm on my own, nobody cares. They're just like, yeah, I've got one of those faces, one of those easy to forget.
All right, that's pretty good. But I mean, yeah, you couldn't be having like all the Hallmark stars standing in front of a Christmas tree is kind of like the look at us kind of.
It's a little on the nose. Yeah, I feel it's a little much.
That's perfect. All right. All right. Next tough question. Is there a secret talent that you have that most of the fans don't realize?
Secret talent. Oh man. Well, I'm an avid woodworker and carpenter. I've been doing it my whole life since I was like as the earliest Christmas I can remember. I was 5 years old and I asked for a drill for Christmas. I remember, and I did. I got a Sears
Like every
Craftsman,
kid does.
like any normal kid. And so I build the thing that I've built constantly, furniture, whatever, like jewelry boxes, doing construction, remodels, stuff like that, up until about 4 years ago when I started writing. And then once I started writing, that just ate up all of my free time. But I'm an avid builder and woodworker. I love it.
Now, Luke McFarlane is as well. Have you ever, like, I don't know if you know him,
Oh,
but
we've spoken at length about it. Yeah. Yeah,
So when you
he's
guys
got an
get,
incredible shop. He's got I don't know if he's still living at the same house in LA, but he had an amazing workshop and we had a lot to talk about. And he ended up starring in Mariah's Lighthouse, which was a
all right,
movie that I co-wrote. And we had made Mariah a carpenter in the movie. And I had gone to like great length to describe the tools that she used. And I think that was how Luke and I first talked about it. He's like, where'd you get your research for all the tools? He's like, you were spot on with it. And I'm like, well, I like woodworking. Um, so we bonded over that. He's a phenomenal woodworker.
so you guys aren't talking like movies or anything like that. You're like talking about what do you call like dove joints or whatever. I'm not a
Yeah,
woodworker,
dovetails.
so
Who wants to
yeah,
talk movies? I mean,
yeah.
I get way more excited looking at like a tool catalog than talking about, what movies are coming out in theaters. I actually couldn't care less. I'm like, but you want to talk to me about, yeah, wood joints? I'm in.
I guess I should rewrite all my questions and go on that.
If
So,
you can rewrite them all now
mape.
to
Now,
wood
are we
base.
talking maple or ebony for your preferred wood?
I used to build a lot in maple, but I find like back when the really light woods were in fashion, but I find that with a clear finish, they would yellow a lot over time. So I started to moving to either a walnut for something darker, or my favorite is a rift cut white oak, and it comes up like beautiful long grain. You see it in a lot of kitchens and stuff now. They use it. I do all my cabinet doors out of this like rift cut white oak. It's like a really interesting cut in the log, and it creates this beautiful straight grain with like a nice light, sort of a Scandinavian feel. Don't get me
Nice.
started, Eric. I could,
No, I was about to say, I was just joking, and then you came in with the full
I
out
know,
real
I
answer.
know.
Now, all right, as we are just riffing here now, so if we were to like do the mobile and go through the house, like, are your cabinets like, did you actually do the millwork and stuff
You
like
want to
that
see
for your
them?
house?
Yeah, I built all these. I did all the cabinets. I
All right,
did the whole
that's
thing. I built the cabinets. I poured a single slab of concrete that I used as the backsplash. So I actually built like a custom concrete backsplash that I inserted, did all the cabinets, did everything. Yeah.
that's fantastic. That's skills,
Thank you. I'm
skills.
also glad I cleaned the kitchen before I turned that laptop around.
All right. All right. Next thing would be the mystery we're about to talk about is focus on podcasters. Now,
Yeah.
are you a fan of podcasts yourself? Do you listen to
I
them?
am. Smartless, I've listened to a ton of Smartless. I've listened to Joe Rogan a fair amount. I generally, if I have somebody talking in my ears, it's like some sort of self-help book. It's like a Brene Brown, it's therapy, or it's, psychology. Or it's a kid's story. It's in the car and it's a children's story. But yeah, I like podcasts a lot. They're great for when I'm exercising. I don't have a lot of time to just sit around and listen to a podcast, but yeah, I love it. I love the medium.
That's awesome. And even better
Yeah.
when you get to kill them. But whole
That's the
nother
best
story.
part. Yeah, you go like these podcasts are great, but when you get to kill the podcaster, that's
Right.
that's peak life experience.
Well, we had Joel and Margot on, and I told him it's like after they did we were their first podcast, and I was like, oh, did you then get the notion of killing a podcaster after talking to me for 40 minutes? And they're like, yeah, pretty much.
They're
So
like, it didn't take 40 minutes.
it's a good point. Good point. It's after the icebreaker questions, they're like, oh, this guy's horrible. No,
I will say, Joel and Margot are probably the two best writers at Hallmark channel right now. You heard it here first. I don't think you could find a better pair of writers. I don't owe them any money. I don't have to say this. They didn't pay me to say this. I can't believe how good they are at writing, and I can't believe that I get to be part of these movies that they've written because they are hands down my favorite scripts that I come across at Hallmark.
I'm looking at my Instagram, and Kimberley Sustad just unfriended you.
Well,
That's
that's not
that's
surprising.
all right. All right. The next question is, who's the biggest Canadian treasure? Celine Dion, Wayne Gretzky, Jason Priestley, or Putin? Is that how you
Oh,
pronounce it, right?
poutine. Oh, poutine?
Putin.
Poutine. You were talking about French fries with cheese
Yeah, yeah,
curds and
yeah.
gravy. It's poutine. It's
Putin.
poutine every time. Sorry, Wayne.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, how many goals did you really score, right?
how many? 99.
Not
Did
enough
you
for.
did you put gravy on cheese curds? I don't think you did. I mean, listen, it's a tough question. I'm not sure that Priestley. I love Priestley. I've worked with Jason Priestley. He's a lovely man.
Seriously?
Yeah, I did it. He did an episode. I was on a sitcom with Dave Foley that we shot in Toronto a couple seasons about 10 years ago, and I got to work with Jason Priestley, and he was lovely. I don't think he's in the same echelon as Celine Dion or Wayne Gretzky, or Poutine for that matter. Um, don't sue me.
Yeah, no. I think you voted right. All right. All right. So one of the things you also did is you worked on Battlestar Galactica, right?
That's correct. Yes.
What was the best part about working in outer space?
Oh man, the you know you it's not very often you go to work and you just disappear into a completely different world. It's one thing to go to a Hallmark set and you're like at the community center and there's a Christmas party. We've all had that experience, but I remember the first time that I walked on the set in the sound stages where they had the main command center, like the of the oh God, what was the main ship?
And Battlestar Galactica on it.
What was Apollo's ship? Anyway, yeah, I walked into the main command center, which was a huge set, and I could not believe it. Just felt like you had been transported to an entirely different world. And then you get the hangar with all the fighter jets, all these like spaceships and stuff. Extraordinary. You really do. It's almost impossible not to disappear into that character. The world that they create around you informs so much of the acting, and there's so much more to play with because it's so rich. Not that you don't get that in regular TV, but you are genuinely transported to a different world. And then at the end of the day, you step outside into the bright sunlight of Vancouver, British Columbia, and you're like, oh yeah, this is the real world. There's a Walmart over there. Yeah, I think that was it. And being able to work with an extraordinary cast, I think arguably one of the greatest ensemble casts of modern television. I don't know where you find many better casts. So that was a pretty unique experience for me.
Now, what do you think about Hallmark going and creating an intergalactic rom-com then? Maybe you
Oh
should write that.
man, space for love, space
Yeah,
for romance. Yeah, I mean, I think it takes a pretty decent budget to make good sci-fi. I think we'd be fighting a budget. We don't spend a ton of money on these movies. Um, so I think it would be ambitious. I also think it would be a huge mistake, but sorry, Lisa Hamilton Daly, if you have something in development that takes place in the sci-fi realm or in space, what if it's called like Over the Moon in Love and it's literally just two people stranded on the moon? I think I
exactly.
think we could do that. Yeah, I don't know. I think we should probably stick to what we
Stick
know
stick to the ground,
for the time
terrestrial,
being. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get the extraterrestrial.
Stick
All
to
right.
this stratosphere.
All right, last one. So I told you I talked to Margot and Joel earlier this week, and I asked them if they weren't an actor, what would they be doing with their life right now? I think I know this answer, but if you weren't an actor, would you be doing with your life right now?
I used to think I knew the answer too, and I think probably I always defaulted to I would be a builder.
That's what I was going to
I
guess.
don't know that I would. Like, I think I probably would, but I have a feeling that I would somehow have I would have realized pretty quickly. I did realize when I was building houses, I did that for 4 years out of high school. That was all I wanted to do, and I got tired of it. It wasn't creatively fulfilling. I just was like, this is not going to be my career. And I ended up sort of stumbling into acting. So I have a feeling that if I were to go back to it, I would probably, something similar would happen. And maybe I would end up sort of starting a company that specializes in something. Uh, I always felt like if I didn't go into acting, I probably would have tried to get into engineering or something like that. I love,
Okay.
uh, and so maybe I would go that route. I actually don't know where I would end up. I like working with my hands in a creative way. Um, so something in that vein, something creative for sure.
So that woodworking may be the thing that's better the passion than the career because it takes the sort of the
It
joy
takes,
out of it,
yeah,
maybe.
exactly. Yeah. And like the way, with the stuff that I build, unless I went into full like manufacturing, which doesn't sound fun, there's no money in the way that I work, the stuff that I like to do, the time I like to take. There's no money in it. So
Right.
I
It's a
don't
thing
know.
that it costs you like $500 to make and would sell for $200 kind of thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
pretty
have
much.
those hobbies too.
That's about
That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. You can't pick cases. What's your favorite Hallmark movie that you've been in?
You son of a gun. You made
I
me do
know you
this.
got it's like who's your favorite kid kind of question, but you got to do it. Like I said, I only ask
Three wise men.
hard
Three
questions.
three wise men and a baby.
Nice,
I
going
think.
going nice and recent.
It just and maybe I won't say it's because it's most fresh in my memory, but truly was a magical experience. We were doing something. It's so wonderful to perform in scripts that you've written, to act out words that you've written, and to see your friends enjoying the words that you've written. And we worked so hard on that movie. Kimberly and I writing that movie, we worked so hard. We were so precious with the script, and then to be able to get it on its feet and spend 3 weeks with two of the most lovely, fun guys imaginable, and Margaret Collin and a baby, and the whole cast in general. It was a dream come true. We kept pinching ourselves every day. We're like, this doesn't come around very often. And we were so grateful to be able to do that. And then to have it turn out as well as it did and have people respond the way they did, I think, yeah, for sure. That's
So my next question is going to kind of be a similar one, but just to to dovetail off that, it was pretty revolutionary because it wasn't really a romance, obviously, right? It was a bromance type
it was
movie
a
and
romance
stuff.
among brothers. Yeah, it was a yeah.
Was that like kind of a hard sell to Hallmark to get them to? Because that's not their sweet spot, so to speak. Or were they
It
say,
wasn't a
oh,
hard
these three
sell.
names, done?
It wasn't really a hard sell. It's really funny. Tyler and I had kind of Kimberly and I had kind of come up with this idea to do uh Three Men and a Baby, basically, this same concept, and to take Tyler, Andrew, and I and do something along the lines of Three Men and a Baby. And we got a call from the network basically the same week that we were putting this pitch together with a producer, and they said, hey, we have a really fun idea for you guys. Do you guys want to talk about it? So Kimberly and I got on a call, and they were like, we think you guys should do something along the lines of Three Men and a Baby. uh
Wait, seriously? Completely randomly they said this to you?
yeah, they had yeah, it was just kind of, yeah, I don't know, it was really strange. We
Maybe
went,
they're
well,
bugging
that's
your
funny.
house.
We've already got a, yeah, they're bugging the house, or we just talk too loudly. I don't know, that's quite possible too. And we were like, well, that's funny because we were just going to bring that into you guys. And so there was no real pitch or concept for it aside from, hey, what do you think of this idea of the three of us working together? And they wanted to make it a Christmas movie. We had originally thought of it as non-Christmas. They wanted to make it a Christmas movie. So we literally started our opening idea was Paul, Tyler, and Andrew in a Christmas movie with a baby. And we realized pretty quickly it wasn't gonna be a traditional rom-com. And
Right.
obviously we built in love stories and love interests for each brother. And the challenging part was building emotional arcs for each brother that resolved the end, and telling a love story among family, but also telling love stories with each individual story. And yeah, I think there were, the conversations with the network all along, and even, to be fair, amongst ourselves, was, is this going to work? Will people respond to this? I think nobody at the network was sure how it would go over. They had a feeling it would do well, but nobody was like, this is an obvious slam dunk, because it was such a break in form for everything that they had done so far. So yeah, there was a lot of like, we'll see. And then we saw.
Yes. I'm still like speechless with the whole weird coincidence of them being like, hey, let's do this. And that's what you were going to do. But no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. And yeah, it's like I say, it was awesome because it did prove you don't have to have that traditional Hallmark, plot that gets made fun of all the time and stuff like that, and still be. It's the most successful movie, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So kudos to you.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
Well, speaking of great movies and being sort of breaking the mold, you're also in Wedding Every Weekend, which is one of my absolute favorite all-time Hallmark movies. That
No
movie is
way. Okay.
spectacular from start to end. Love
Oh,
it.
thank you.
And but one of the things that was in it as far as like being groundbreaking was it was the first time there was the same sex couple in
Hmm.
a Hallmark movie. Now, granted, it was this, sort of a little side story of it. But at the time, did you realize it was like a big deal, or was it just sort of, oh, there's the scene with we're going to this wedding and
Are you
moving
kidding me?
on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if you recall, that was the first, it was the first movie that started filming in in Canada, as far as I know, under the lifted restrictions for COVID, right? It went back on my birthday, June 22nd of 2020. So we'd been in 3 months of lockdown with COVID. I knew I was going to work this COVID conversation in somewhere.
Perfect.
So we were the first movie back filming, and um, prior to COVID, there'd been a huge issue with an
Right.
ad pulled, from an affiliate TV station that featured a same-sex couple kissing briefly in an ad at their wedding. And Bill Abbott had come under fire. It was a whole big deal made about this. And then we come back first one up to bat after COVID, and we have a same-sex couple, a same-sex kiss in our movie, a same-sex couple getting married in our movie. Um, it wasn't lost on me for 1 second how important that was, and how timely, and how necessary that was. And it was, um, I in the lead up to the premiere of that movie, I think it turned around pretty quickly. I feel like it came out like 5 weeks after we wrapped filming or something. It was really fast. But there was a lot of pushback online. There was a lot of people making comments online, and I just went to bat. I went to war, and I just started like, I got embroiled in a bunch
Right.
of, I engaged with people, whether that was the right thing to do or not. I was feeling really defensive of this movie, and I was feeling like it was really important for me to have a voice in that. And I started engaging with people in what I think was a pretty sort of like a pretty soft way. I wasn't using inflammatory language, but I was definitely not shying away. And then some of those, like MSNBC and a bunch of people, started running, stories about these interactions of taking screenshots, and they were posting it, and it became like this kind of news thing, like, war breaking out about a controversial movie. And it's so insane to me. It
I'm with you.
I mean, it was so innocent. The whole thing is so ridiculous. And then the movie premiered to great numbers, and we kind of went, well, there you go, you know.
And then you had a little role in Love Classified too, right? Didn't you have an
Yeah, I
appearance in
mean,
that? Another one
Hallmark.
that got beat
Yeah,
up.
Hallmark has
So
has made really great strides, and it's unfortunate that those movies that feature inclusive, casting and diverse storylines do sometimes take a beating a little bit, but they're so necessary, and I applaud Hallmark for continuing to make them, even if they don't necessarily rate as highly as some of the other movies. I think they're important.
I'll say that's one of my. I try not to get too inflammatory too, but one of my big things is the people who go at attack the traditional, quote unquote, traditional marriage. I swear Instagram thinks I'm a like 56-year-old Canadian lesbian just because I'm like, that's the one thing I can't handle. You can have your difference of opinions, just don't know. So
Just shut up.
Yep.
You know,
Just don't
just
watch it, right?
don't say anything. You've
Just
like,
don't
it's
watch it.
like, why do you need to leave this comment? And people are so savage with their comments, and
Yeah.
it's so often so unnecessary. You know, I don't know why, like, I have no time for this sort of negativity, and it's like, go believe what you want to believe, but don't bring this sort of toxic energy to my feed, to my posts. You don't have to like muddy the water here. You're not getting hurt. Yeah, I'm like, I have no time for that. Um, and it takes a lot of willpower not to come at it really hard. And
Yep. I hear you.
but anyway,
Well,
you
along
know,
kind of dissecting, but a little tangent here. But this is one of the things I talked to Joel and Margot about, and I didn't know if it was like sort of just their naivete of being just new to a Hallmark movie. But in the original cases, you had the guy who gets murdered has a, a closeted gay relationship, and then he's
mhm.
also in a open marriage with his wife. I was like, do you have any idea how crazy that is for the Hallmark world? And yet it wasn't even a blip, at least that I heard. So
No,
like
I didn't
from
hear
from
a
where you
single thing.
came to
Yeah,
there, I mean, it's amazing. So
nobody
great
batted an
strides.
eye. Yeah. I mean, and it also is a testament to how organically it was handled in the script. And
Right.
you're not shining a light on anything. You're not going, oh, let's highlight this because it's important. You're like, no, this is just part of the fabric of everything. And it is so relatable. And the way that everybody responds is so natural and relatable. And you're like, this is part of life, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. We are a very diverse group of people, and these types of stories are very common. They do exist everywhere you go, whether you choose to agree with them or not. Let's tell stories about real life, and the way that Margot and Joel write, you just kind of go, yeah, that feels like real life. That feels normal. Right? And I was really happy. I read it too, and I was like, they greenlit this? They're gonna let us to fantastic. Here we go.
Yeah. And
Great.
that's the thing that I found amazing. And it was just such a non-issue, which is great.
Yeah.
All right. So back on track here. So you've tackled writing, obviously acting. Do you have aspirations to get into directing next, or is this kind of the writing and acting consume you enough? That's enough.
I have a feeling, well, first of all, the world does not need more 45-year-old Caucasian directors, Caucasian. They just don't. It's like we're pretty full up over here. Um, I don't know if directing's my thing or not. It's not something that I'm like champing at the bit to get after. I think producing maybe would be the route that I'd like to go. As my hairline begins to recede and we start to age out of these things, I think the writing is something that I find so fulfilling, and that I'm hopefully able to continue doing for many years to come. But producing is also exciting to me. Anything sort of creative, like being a creative producer, is a really exciting idea for me. So maybe I'll go that route. Directing's not off the table, but it is really competitive, and I think particularly watching what Ashley Williams has done with the female directors program at Hallmark, I'm like, yeah, this is the way it should be. We should have these young females coming up and starting to direct these movies, and branching out, given the opportunities that have been just devoured by men for so long. It's like it's our turn to step aside a little bit. So I'm happy to do that, and produce. And maybe I should step aside from that as well and give space. But I don't know. Right now, it seems like directing is the thing that where we need more female voices. So I'm happy to let them speak.
All right. All right. Well, your background's been the rom-coms, and then you jumped into the mystery with cases.
Mhm.
Like, how was that? Was that something you were like wanting to do a mystery, or is it just sort of the project that came up that happened to be a mystery? And then what was it like, the mystery experience compared to the traditional rom-com?
The great questions. I definitely have been wanting to do a mystery. I have been very enviously watching all of my friends do these really fun projects, something that tonally felt outside of the rom-com world. And then Cases came along, and I was like, there's no way that I get to do like this. This is a dream come true, because Cases, more than any other project, pardon me, felt like a return to single camera comedy, which is something, one of my favorite things to do. Like, it is a legit comedy. The characters, the voices, the pacing, the heightened circumstance, like everything about it screamed. To me, it was kind of like, I'm never going to be offered Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's Andy Samberg's job, but this is my chance to do Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and to do it at a network that I love, and with people that I love. I'm like, this is the dream job. Cases of Mystery Lane is my dream mystery wheel. It feels like it was just tailored for me, and I've been waiting my whole life to play this stupid character. I love it. I love it so much. And Amy and I have a really funny history that I don't know if we've even talked about this publicly, but she and I were both cast in 2009. We were both cast in a show with Steve Levitan, before Modern Family. It was Kelsey Grammer and Patricia Heaton and Ty Burrell and Fred Willard were the four main cast, and then it was me and Amy. So there were six of us, and it was for Fox. It was called Back to You, and it was picked up for 13 episodes. It was a live, like a sitcom for Fox. It was the only pilot of that year of 35 comedy pilots that was picked straight to series, and we somehow found ourselves on this thing. And then both of us were recast the night before they actually shot the pilot. So Josh Gad came in and took my role, and a female actress came in and took Amy's role. But we had both gone through this experience of going like, oh my gosh, we've landed, like, we've won the lottery. We've landed on the biggest show in Hollywood for that year. And then we both were recast. They wanted, like, Josh Gad. He's just like, he's a huge personality and big and funny, and was not what I was bringing. They just needed a different dynamic, and they had a very similar character and actress replace Amy, and then we both the following day, like, devastated, both the following day saw each other at another audition for another pilot, which we both sort of went right to the end on, and neither of us got it. And then I hadn't seen her again for like 15 years until Cases of Mystery Lane.
I was going to ask if you knew her, but I guess you did.
I knew her from that,
A
yeah.
very interesting background there.
So we came full circle, and we were like, oh my God, that show. Yeah, 2009. Yeah, it was like 15 years, 14 years. Yeah, so I mean, if you can't tell, I couldn't be more thrilled to be part of this show. I love it so much.
Well, it's perfect casting. I mean, but all right.
It's so well written. Like, you just don't get scripts like this very often. It's so good.
So you mentioned these names before. You're part of this, pretty popular quartet in Hallmark world with Kimberley Sustad, Andrew Walker, and Tyler Hines. So in the future mystery, in let's say whatever Cases 3, you've got the casting and you've got those three in there. Which one's going to be the murder victim? Who's going to be the murderer? And who's going to be the detective?
Tyler's the victim. Kimberly's the murderer. Andrew's the detective. 100%. There's not even don't even try and shake me on it. That's how it goes.
I think Kimberly would be a little too excited to take on that role.
I don't know. That feels like something I want to write. If you think for 1 second we're not trying to figure out something else for the four of us to do together, you're mistaken. I'm like, we're gonna throw 1,000 ideas at Hallmark until one of them sticks. There's no debate. We're gonna do something else if it's the last thing I do.
I guess they're obviously very well received, so fans will be backing you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we're going to talk a little bit about Cases. Like you said before, that it was just a great script. You identified with Alden. So what was it really that really drew you into the Cases that made it be this dream role for you?
First of all, it's so dynamic. I think the dialogue is fantastic. it does really feel like a single camera comedy, like it's written at that pace. And as an actor, that's really exciting because a lot of these Hallmark movies are paced a little slower. They take their time, they really breathe. And there was a really sort of frenetic pace with these really heightened circumstances that you just go, let me in there. I just want to get it. I already know how that's going to feel to be in that scene, to be excited and trying to solve the case of this and the thing and the thing. Oh my God. Like I just get excited going, I just want to be in those shoes. I want to do that thing. And then my favorite thing to do is to do accents and put on characters. Like I don't get to do accents in Hallmark. And this was an opportunity. It's like some of it is in the script, some of it is, it's like Alden shows up wearing a mustache, and I
Right.
go, oh, it's going to be a mustache, and it's going to be an accent, and it's going to be a walk. I go, how do I bring a whole world to each of these characters? The first one, there was a scene in the first one, if you recall, where I go to the sailing club and I sit down opposite the guy at the table and I'm like,
Right.
how do I know it wasn't you who did it? And he wheels out in a wheelchair and I'm like, oh. But the scene that was cut was me walking up to the guy at the valet desk from my car. And I had a real, like, I'm Bill so-and-so with a real walk and a captain's hat. And we had this whole scene where I had this like crazy limp and this really weird accent. And it was cut for time.
Yeah.
Uh, but the disguise, like what's so fun about the character of Alden is that he's not a detective. He doesn't know, like, he only knows what he's seen on TV and what he thinks a detective is supposed to act like. So when
Yeah.
she goes, dude, what's with the mustache? She's like, what do you mean, what's with the mustache? I'm a detective. Like, he doesn't get that that's not what you do. So there's so much freedom in every time he dresses up or puts on an accent, he thinks he's doing a great job. Whether he looks silly or not is irrelevant. It's like, no, I'm undercover. And then he drags Birdie into it. And the fun that you get to have being so convinced of your own like you've sold yourself on this idea and you get to buy into your own silliness wholesale because you think you're doing the best job, and that gives you all the freedom in the world. And I could feel that in the first script. Like, this is a guy who's just excited to be doing the thing. And so anything goes. And sometimes it's wacky and sometimes it works, but he is just going to go 1,000% into being a detective and drag his wife along with him. And there's no more fun playground for an actor than that. Just going, there's no handcuffs on this guy. He can just go at 1,000% and it's acceptable.
I'll say, as you said, you enjoy that as the actor, as the viewer, it also is equally enjoyable.
Oh, good.
So
This one, the second one I think, is better than the first.
that's what Joel said.
I had more fun somehow. And I think, because we know the characters and we have history, and as you go, you sort of drag that history and you drag the relationship along with you, and it starts to snowball, and the subtext becomes bigger, right? Now you can just shoot a look and everybody goes, oh, I know that look, or I know
Right.
what he's thinking because I know the character. The disguises, the silliness in this one is better. There's a photo. I don't know if you saw the Hallmark posted a photo of me with the shirt open and the mustache and the hair, the pompadour, and we're like these Latin salsa dancers.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how we got away with it, but it's one of the most insane, silly sequences I've ever done at Hallmark or otherwise. It is so damn fun.
That's awesome.
The accent, like, for sure I'm getting canceled. You can't. Bernie, it's time to dance. Everybody want the salsa. Like, it's that accent. And I'm like, am I getting away with this? Am I
Ricky
gonna get
Ricardo,
canceled?
right? Or
What's that?
Ricky, who's
Yeah,
the
Ricky Ricardo. Yeah,
yeah, Ricky
yeah.
Ricardo. Yeah,
Okay, we're here to dance. That's it.
love it.
Except he was Latin. I am not.
All right. So speaking of Alden and all the, the craziness of him, he also has a very unique style of just wardrobe.
Yeah.
We had Nicole McCormick on, who was the costumer for the first one, and she shared some of the original designs, which were sort of a base. But like, how much did you get involved in like, oh, this is how I feel Alden is, and help determine those looks, or were you pretty much like, all right, wardrobe, hand me my clothes, and this is what I'm wearing?
No, like we go in, you have pretty extensive, at least 4 to 6 hours worth of fittings before you go into these things. It's like it's a whole day. So, and the wardrobe departments always do a really wonderful job. They overbuy, they buy a ton of stuff, and then they come in and they go, all right, let's just go through it piece by piece. What do we like? What don't we like? What direction are we going in? And in Nicole's case, she knocked it out of the park. There was some stuff that I said no to. There was some stuff that never in a million years would I have chosen, but ended up being like some signature pieces. He's got those polo like the slip-on Vans, except they're polo and they've got the horses on the front. And you see him like, in what world did you think to buy those? And yet they're hilarious, and his horrible bathrobes. Sometimes you put it on and you're like, yep, this is it, right away. And then other times you're like, I don't think this is it. So it's sort of a process of elimination. And then once you get together a pretty solid base, then the department will go, okay, we know what we're going to buy. We'll go out and just add a few extra pieces to it. So it is collaborative to a degree, but full credit to the wardrobe departments for, the design work is almost entirely theirs. I don't have much input in that.
So, was there anything like you just had sticky fingers and is now you have Alden in your closet at home?
Oh yeah. What did I take? I definitely took like some of the sweatpants. Like these are so comfortable. There's some great pairs of sweatpants. Took a couple of the t-shirts.
He
None of
had
the
that
shoes.
one like vest thing that he wore.
Oh no, I wasn't allowed to take that because they weren't sure if it was going to play in the next movie. They're like, I wanted to take that. They're like, no, that stays. I took the Mario's pizza hats. I've got those from his pizza delivery
So you took
guy.
like pretty much half the wardrobe.
Oh no, you would be shocked at how many clothes, how many changes, especially because they're in disguise. It's like three of those massive clothing racks just full of stuff. Like, I don't know how these wardrobe departments do this shopping in the 2 weeks of prep that they have. They shop for everybody, they buy full wardrobes for all the characters. And then even into the second movie, like I don't think we reused more than two or three pieces from the first movie in the second movie, which also begs the question, does this guy turn over an entire wardrobe every season? Like, where's he getting all these fresh threads from? I don't know.
Uh,
You just don't ask.
Amy,
But yeah,
Birdie's a lawyer. She's got the bucks.
she's got money. Yeah, and I don't know what they get
What?
for solving these cases. I don't know how much these PIs get, but they must be making a few bucks here.
Yeah. All right. Well, talking about Amy. So this was her first Hallmark movie, I'm pretty darn sure.
Yeah,
Um, Now we've heard all the stories from all the different actors we've talked about how making Hallmark movies is so unique because of the pacing, like you were talking about before, the budget, just the things that go into making a Hallmark movie, that you can have some really quality actors who just can't survive in that environment that it takes. Was there anything like you did to help Amy adjust to the Hallmark, you know, production type thing, or is she just come in and Amy's Amy and so she just killed it?
she's a pro. She just comes in. She's a pro. She had memorized the entire script before we started shooting. Which, and I don't know if you know too much about actor process, but that's unreal. I don't even know the lines when we're starting to film the scenes. I'm like, I think I got it. I like
Well,
to keep it kind of
sorry, is
loose.
that the other extreme though?
I think it is. Everyone thinks I'm crazy for doing that, but it does. It's sort of, I kind of know them like 80%. They're kind of in there bumping around, and then they mostly just come out, but it leaves me free to improvise and to sort of like
Okay.
flow around things, right? I don't have it locked in. Amy came in so prepared, and to her credit, she can improvise, she can do all those things, but also she knew her lines, she knew my lines, she knew the whole thing. This movie's a little bit different, Hallmark, this sort of like eternal message of hope and eternal optimism. Somebody described once to me that like every actor in a Hallmark movie or every character in a Hallmark movie seems like they're walking around with a winning $1 million lottery ticket in their pocket and they know it just at all times. They're like, "You breaking up with me? That's okay. I got $1 million in my pocket." You're like, it's a pretty good analogy. Um, we things have shifted away from that in recent years. We've become a lot more grounded, and we're not afraid to show a little pain in these movies. But this mystery in particular, is different because it's not like that slower paced rom-com. This is like a fast paced. This, Amy knows single cam comedy as well as anybody, and she's a pro. So this these pilots, these movies were originally written for a different network. There's a
Right.
lot edgier than Hallmark, for FX, I think. And so the tone, everything about it screams not Hallmark. And so for someone like Amy to come in with 20 something years of experience, I mean, she's a total pro. She came in and just nailed it. There was no issues. She probably helped walk me through certain things. I didn't have to help her through anything.
All right. Well, I don't want to insult you and stuff, but I will say when it first aired, I looked up because I was like, oh, they did it again. They cast someone like way younger with an older actor, and I thought she was like 30. So, um,
I'm both insulted, but also proud of Amy
yeah,
for
yeah.
she is 30.
It's like it was nothing. It was no knock on you. It was just yeah, I
Amy is
thought she was.
ageless. Amy's
So,
ageless. She could be 25. I actually don't know. I actually literally don't know. I've never asked her. You obviously you don't do that, but
right.
yeah, you don't ask. I'm like, look, if you want to look 25, look great. Tell me your secret. What are you doing over there?
So, all right. Well, talking about some co-stars, you were in Battlestar Galactica and Sun, Sand, and Romance with Trisha Helfer, and then
Yeah.
Amy was in her with Lucifer. You
Hmm.
think maybe we could get her into a future cases as well because she's absolutely fantastic. You guys obviously both have great chemistry with her. So, who do I have to talk to over in casting to make this one
That's a
happen?
That's a great idea. One of the wonderful things about Trish is that she's so game. She's like, she's years ago, Paul Green and I, another Hallmark actor, Paul Green, and we had come up with this silly idea for a podcast called Two Pauls in a Pod. And we only recorded two
By the way,
episodes.
another very unique name, Paul Green. I don't think there's another one of those on the planet.
No, there's not. We recorded two episodes, and Trish was our guest on the second one. She and Paul had done some supermodeling back in the day, as you do. But I just called her out of the blue, and I'm like, "Hey, you want to come do a podcast?" And she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come." Like she's that kind of person that would go, "Yeah, you want me to come play and come be a killer or something?" She would, for sure. She would come and play. Oh, I called her. She did an episode of the show that I did with Dave Foley. I called her. I'm like, we need an ex-wife for Dave Foley. Do you want to come and play on our comedy? And she's like, I'd love to. Get me in touch with the producers. And so she came and did that too. She's awesome.
Like, and she's incredibly talented too. So yeah, up there you go. We've got our we just ruined the spoiler now that we've announced that she's the killer in Cases 3, but
No, she's gonna play my dad or something like that. We're gonna have to flip it on its head. She can't. You're gonna have to tell Joel and Margot, first of all, to write something for a Trish Helfer type. Get it into one of the. Maybe she becomes this sort of like this distraction for Alden. He starts to like he can't. He's supposed to be like he's doing bodyguard duty or something, and that's his new gig. And he starts to get a little distracted by Trisha Helfer. That would be interesting. I also have this really fun idea that to kind of go in the opposite direction of Rob McElhenney, who got really heavy for one episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I think he put on like 80 pounds. He just thought it would be funny in between seasons to come back way heavier. I think it would be really funny if I just got super jacked, like just got really muscular in between a couple episodes, and I'm just come back as like a whole new person. And then by the time we air it again, the next one, I'm back to normal. I think that
All
would be
right.
really, I don't know
I,
if it's doable,
I
but
like it. Probably have to get you a little some roids going, but that's okay.
yeah,
Anything,
you
anything
do
for
what you
the
got to
craft,
do.
right?
You do what you got to do.
Exactly. All right. So we've got the second one out now, and you talked about it a little bit. And this is one of our big things. And when we talked to Lisa Hamilton Daly, she agreed that you really need for these mysteries to be successful is you need like three of them because that first one, as you mentioned, you're just laying all that groundwork, getting to know the characters, and the second one is really where you can really start growing these characters because you don't have to worry about that, right? So where
Mhm.
does Alden like where is his growth when we look at Death is Listening, compared to the original?
Well, it's interesting. We kind of grappled with this a little bit because the first episode focused pretty heavily also on the marital problems. And, you know, for Alden's journey with Birdie is that he was a bit of a Peter Pan, like couldn't really settle into anything. And then he finds sleuthing and has decided that this is going to be his career. And obviously, she's a successful lawyer, and that's met with a little bit of concern. Is this just another? You can't do this. Like you're not cut out for this. And he kind of proves that he can do it. We pick up the second one with, again, we didn't want to lose the thread of them. Like it's no fun if they've completely resolved everything, and now they're just like this dynamic duo. So the more sort of emotional, personal piece that we weave through this one, and it ties in with the title, is that we still are not really listening to each other. Like where Alden is so concerned with what he's doing. There's a whole B story with a mouse in the house that I won't spoil for you, but he's terrified of mice and he's consumed by catching this thing, and he's not really paying attention to Birdie and being the good husband that he should be, and thereby not really working as a great teammate. So his emotional journey for two is recognizing that he's not really working as a teammate with this woman that he wants nothing more than to be teammates with. And I think they both kind of realize that they have to do better. In terms of his sleuthing, you know, I hope that he doesn't grow too much. I hope that we really arrest his growth throughout because the fun of Alden is that he's savvy in certain ways. He's tech savvy, but he's kind of bumbling and he's very flawed and his methods are chaotic. I don't really want him to grow beyond that too much because you lose a lot of the fun. So as a sleuth, as a detective, I think he has this really sort of funny earnestness about him. It's a charming earnestness that I don't think we'll ever lose. It's like he can't help but sort of get himself in trouble or step outside the lines. Like it's all in the name of, come on, we got to do the right thing, or I want to be involved, or whatever it is, whether it's the right thing or not. Um, and I think that's going to be his charm throughout the entire series. That is who he is. So I don't think he'll ever grow beyond that. I
I don't
I
want him to.
don't know that, I don't think we want to see them constantly dealing with marriage issues. Alden causes enough issues just by being himself outside of having to deal with emotional stuff within the marriage. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, like growth is such a big part of the rom-coms. We always have to write in big arcs for these characters. How do they grow? What do they learn? I don't know that it's as important in the mystery. I think we can sort of sprinkle it in, but I don't know that we need to see it as much. I think so much of the fun is in just watching these people exist and try to navigate this new world that they've created for themselves.
Well, what's usually is the arc is the romance that, you take a couple of that slow burn and then by, episode 3 or 4, they're kissing. You're a
Right.
very unique one because you guys are coming in married. So it's unlike all the other mysteries that are going
Yeah,
on.
it doesn't, and they gave us, they started us here. Marriage was in trouble, and we did bring it we kind of brought it back together. By the end of the first one, we had resolved that like we wanted to be here and we were going to really work on it. I don't think we're going to lose the thread of, maybe a little bit of disharmony in the marriage and differing opinions. I know they have not ordered a third one yet, but I know what the idea is. I think there's stuff in the works, and whether we are able to get that far, I think is contingent a little bit on how well this next one performs.
It's going to
So
be a home run,
come out and
guaranteed,
vote.
guaranteed.
But yeah, it will be. I think, I hope so. I know Joel and Margot have a lot more stories they'd like to tell. And I know for a fact that in the third one, it focuses a little more heavily on Birdie and some personal stuff for her, which might bring some stuff into the marriage. Again, like you always want to have some grounding element to come back to, especially in a series where the characters are big and can sometimes be broad. Like the only thing that makes this resonate is if you have a quiet moment where there's a real heartfelt, some sort of sentiment or something you're actually dealing with. And again, Joel and Margot know exactly what they're doing. So I'm sure that we'll find those emotional beats every time we have one of these movies, hopefully 37 of them, because I love them so much.
I
But
was hoping for 38, but I guess 37 will be okay.
let's not get greedy, Eric.
All right. All right, speaking of Joel and Margot, so when we talked to them, they said that one of the things like, so they traveled to the set here, and they said one of the things was that you and Peter Benson were just cracking each other up, that it almost was disruptive because you guys were just
Almost.
laughing the whole time. And they were talking about one scene where like they had to shoot over your shoulder, and if you can tell, like you're holding back a smirk or whatever. But can you share like just like one of the fun stories of how the craziness that was going on?
Not a smirk. I was incapacitated. I could not. I was I was holding my breath. I was scrunching my face. I was flexing my abdominals. I was trying to hold my body still. I could not. I could not get through a take. Peter shows up and plays his character, and he is such a pathetic character. The character is so pathetic, and the voice that he chose and the way that he delivered his lines, I couldn't get through it. It was more than disruptive. It was bad. It actually got really bad to the point that it was like, uh, if it was my first job and it was day one of filming, they might have fired me. It was not professional, but I'm like, I don't know what to do in this situation. And Peter, nice guy that he is, just kept leaning into it harder, knowing the moments that would make me laugh. So, I mean, look, it takes two to tango. He would draw it out even more every time, knowing that it was just destroying me. And the funny thing was, and I don't know, I feel like I was totally set up. This was a hit job because we filmed my side of it first, and he kept doing this thing with his voice. Oh, he kept doing this thing, and I couldn't get my words out. I barely got them out. And then when the camera came around on him, Mike Roll was like, you know, Pete, I think let's just try it let's just go a little simpler. I think it's getting a little bit too broad. Let's just dial it back in a little bit. And I'm like, oh, now you want to dial it in? And so he was fine. I'm like, they didn't ask him to do it one time when it was on my face. So I ruined every single take. And there were so many scenes. He played probably 6 times over the course of that day. And every time I got in the room with him, dead, done. I don't know if it's usable. I don't know what. I have not laughed that hard, maybe ever on a set, and I felt horrible, but it's a good memory.
Have you worked with him on other projects?
Yeah, well, he's directed me.
Well, I
Uh,
assume he's probably not making you crack up to the point of being difficult being a director. He's
no,
got a little different priority.
he directed me, and then he's in Wedding Every Weekend. You remember that?
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, he's at the beginning. And even then I was cracking up. There are certain people that for some reason, just something about like they don't have to say anything and I'm gone. And Peter Benson is one of those people that he just he just gives me a look and I'm dead. Uh, and it's a horrible feeling as an actor because A, you're ruining their takes, you're ruining your own, you're holding everything up, and you're helpless. Like you're just helpless.
All right. All right. You mentioned a little earlier that there is a mouse in the house in this movie. Now, how is Paul Campbell with rodents? Like, do they creep you out? Like, I don't like rodents, so I don't
I
know
don't
how I
love
would do
them.
the scene.
No, I'm not like, oh, cute little mouse. Let me get that with my hands. No, if I saw a mouse in the house, I'd be like, ugh, okay. I'm not gonna jump up on the counters. I think in the movie I do actually jump onto the countertop to get away from this thing the first time I see it. I have a pretty good scream. Actually, I do a couple really fun screams in this movie that are sort of Simpsons-esque. But yeah, for me it's like spiders. Also don't love
Uh,
birds. If there's a
I don't
bird,
like birds either.
you ever been in a room and there's a bird in the like a bird flies into a restaurant or something? Get me out of there. They're so unpredictable. They're
Yep.
they're flapping around. I don't like birds. Not a big fan of spiders. Yeah, I'm pretty typical in that I don't love insects and reptiles, and I don't freak out, but like I could just go my whole life never seeing one again, and I wouldn't have an issue with that.
All right. Which we heard that uh Crimes of Fashion, which came out in the spring, they had a rat, which I think a rat's worse than a mouse, but
Oh,
that we
for
learned that
sure.
there's a rat wrangler, and now there's a mouse wrangler for this one too. Maybe that's what you would be doing if you weren't an actor. You'd be some sort of animal wrangler and stuff.
I
So
agree to disagree. The mice that they had, what the hell were they? They were like, oh, did Joel and Margot tell you what they were? They were the cutest. They've got the giant round ears. They were like elephant mice or Dumbo
uh,
mice or something like that.
no,
The
they said that there were four of them who were like babies who they would just swap them
Yeah,
out.
they were really adorable. It wasn't tempted to hold them, but very cute.
All right. Well, it is airing this Friday. We are all excited. By the way, I totally annoyed because I did not know that this filmed way earlier this year, and Hallmark has just been sitting on it because on our Instagram, we've been like banging the drum, like, come on, Hallmark, get off your butt, film the next cases. We need the next cases, only to find out it actually is just sitting on a shelf waiting to air. But finally, we are getting it this Friday. So we are terribly excited for Death is Listening. And I don't see how it's not going to be a hit.
I sure hope so.
But September is also for you a big month because you have another movie coming out with Ashley Williams.
Right.
Can you just we're a mystery one, but still we love our rom-coms too. Can you just do a little quick what that one all about and little
It's
plug for that?
lovely. It's called Falling Together. It's a really lovely story about this gregarious, outgoing woman who lives in New York and has this wonderful community of friends in her apartment building, and she gets a job in Pittsburgh. And she moves to Pittsburgh to this new apartment complex, thinking it's gonna resemble the sort of same family of friends that she had in New York. And when she gets there, she discovers that like nobody speaks to each other. It's lonely and everybody's kind of grumpy. And the whole apartment building is just like every person for themselves. And she just decides that she's going to fix this. And she engages or enlists the help of my character, who's the superintendent, who's also very grumpy and has no interest in getting into other people's business and getting involved in whatever she's up to. But she kind of talks him into it. And then over the course of the movie, they really kind of unite the building in the most beautiful way that incorporates this walk to end Alzheimer's, which was like the most moving, extraordinary scenes to shoot. And the Walk to End Alzheimer's Association donated all of their clothes and the all the props and the gates for like it was just really extraordinary. And Ashley is so wonderful and fun and like heartfelt. It's a beautiful movie. It's a big ensemble, a lot of great characters. And the love story almost comes second to the attempt to get this whole building working together in harmony. But it was really 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 lovely. I'm excited for that one. I think that's September 20th 21st,
I was gonna say 22nd, so I don't, it's
somewhere in there.
later,
Yeah,
late September.
yeah, it's like a week. It's the following week. It's the week after Cases of Mystery Lane.
Okay.
uh,
Um, I assume it was shot in Canada though, right? Because my wife's from Pittsburgh, and I actually she's not a Hallmark fan, but I may be able to get her to watch one. Uh, just saying it's in Pittsburgh.
it was shot in Canada. I wrapped Three Wise Men and a Baby. I wrapped that on a Friday, and then on Monday I started filming the movie with Ashley. So I worked 6 straight weeks, and that was a whole other exciting journey for me. I'd never done that before.
Well, when I talked to Andrew Walker, it was actually during the filming of Three Wise Men, and he stepped out and he was in like some hallway for the beginning, and then he came back and he's like, all right, hang on, I got to go to another place, and he's in the back of a car,
Ah,
which kept cutting out, and then he got to some other location and filmed. The whole thing took like 2.5 hours
oh my
and stuff.
gosh.
But then I killed him because afterwards, like the day after um the podcast dropped was when it all announced. I'm like, you couldn't have given me a little heads up. Jeez. So
Oh, so you sort of broke the story before
no,
it
I
before.
wish I would have, but I didn't know what he said he was filming something.
Oh, I
I didn't know
see.
what it
Oh, he
was.
wouldn't tell you. You were just chatting with him.
Yeah, yeah, no, he's a jerk.
What a dirtbag.
He's
He's
terrible.
the worst.
So
It's called Walker the worst.
all right. Well, you also have, obviously we talked about it, the sequel for Three Wise Men. Are you in any other holiday one, or can you not tell us yet, or what's going on there?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I mean, no other holiday movies. I got 3 movies coming out between September 13th and sometime in November, I think. And Hallmark was like, that's enough for
They
this guy.
figured let you own 1 month. We're not going to give you another
Exactly.
one. So, all right,
Yeah,
makes sense.
that's enough.
All right, Paul. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for coming here. Like I said, we are super excited. Wish this movie all the luck. And like I say, with the acting and the writing, it's just it's a completely fantastic series. So we
Uh,
want we want 38. We'll settle for the 37 more.
Thanks, Eric.
All right.
Appreciate it.
We'll talk to you.
Okay, bye bye.